Hello everyone. Welcome to another live stream. I've missed you guys. I haven't had a live stream in a couple of weeks. For today's card, I thought I would do some creative ink blending and masking, and I'm going to be using supplies that are in my capsule paper crafting box for, I guess, kind of like mid-June through mid-July. I'm going to do it for a full 30 days. But if you missed my last video, I just posted it yesterday. These are all supplies that I took with me to Hawaii while I was there visiting for, it was about 10 nights, 11 days. And I did some crafting while I was there. And I have videos in the bank ready to edit to share with all of you coming up in the next couple of weeks. But in the meantime, now that I'm home, I'm still using those same supplies that I used in Hawaii. I've taken them out of the suitcase. I've put them in my crafting space, and I will be using them for the next little bit. So this card I'm sharing with you today does use the supplies from my capsule paper crafting challenge for June and July of 2022. If you haven't seen that video that I posted yesterday, I did select these Concord and Ninth ink cubes for my inks for this challenge. And then I also put in two little inks from Gina K, a brown and a purple, just because I felt like it needed to round out the color palette. And I also have this stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Garden Greetings, which I just realized was a card kit stamp set from last summer in July. So it's been about a year since we've broken this out. So we're going to break that out today and use it. And the whole idea behind today's card is some creative ink blending and masking. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick out a few different colors to do ink blending. So I've got 5 colors from Concord and Ninth and 1 from Gina K. We've got Poppy, Marmalade, Buttercup, Parsley, Oceanside, and then Wild Lilac paper today. So I cut some strips of masking paper. Hopefully I won't need any more than this, but we'll see. And I'm going to do some creative masking to create sort of like a large horizontal area across the center of my card that I can stamp this over the top. I'm going to do total rainbow order for this. So let's start by putting some masking paper on. And let's see, I've got to have about 6 spots. All right, I'm going to put this masking paper on at a diagonal. And I wanted masking paper that was this wide because the blending brush is pretty big and I didn't want to have it go outside. Okay, so starting with the color Poppy, grabbing my red blender to use the Poppy ink. Come over here a little bit, and I mostly want it to come directly from the center. And I want it to fade out on the top and bottom. So I'm going to add a little more ink here and have it come in from this other side because the center area is where I want it most concentrated. So I'm going to peel up this piece of masking paper. And this is masking paper from Simon Says Stamp, by the way. All right, and now I'm going to bring it over to this edge right here. And I want it to overlap just a little bit into that red. Make sure that's down. I'm going to grab another piece of masking paper. And this is going to be our orange segment. So I'll just, let's see, I want it a little bit larger than you might think because we're going to have colors overlap. So now I've got Marmalade. I'm going to grab my orange blending brush. Let's take this off right here. Oh, I love how those overlapped right there. I wish I would have shown a little bit more over here, but I'm okay. I'm okay with it. This is going to be a really simple card. This is going to come together really quickly. So now I'm going back to my stamp set, and this really long border is what I'll be using for my stamping today. And before we get stamping, because I did all this ink blending and I want to make sure the inks are completely dry, I am going to do an embossing powder test just to make sure that everything looks okay and it's not going to have powder everywhere. All right, so here's my background that I've blended. And I'm going to take some white embossing powder. Now, I'm veering off from what I took to Hawaii. When I went to Hawaii, I didn't want to pack this whole container, so I just packed this. I'm swapping it out for my regular white embossing powder from Burgess Monroe because I like the bigger container, and if I was doing the capsule paper crafting collection at home, I would most definitely just use this. All right, so let's test this out. Well, you know what? First of all, I know it's going to be wet, so I'm just going to go ahead and use my heat tool. This is a dual heat tool, and I'm using it on the low setting so I can use the smallest amount of heat because this is the card base. So I'm just going to put a little bit of heat on this. All right, that was just a small amount of heat. I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool. This is the Cottontail from Rabbit Hole Designs. And doing this just puts a little bit of powder into the brush. All right, let's give this a test. When you're doing embossing on top of anything that has had moisture on it recently, I really recommend you do a test before you do any stamping. See, look at that. That embossing powder stuck right to it. So now we know it's a no-go for stamping right now. I'm going to brush off the excess powder. And then I'm going to hit it with my heat tool again. Cooled off, so let's test this again. And I haven't done my powder tool on it, but let's just see if things slide off. Oh yeah, things are sliding off so much better. Let's get this other side just to test and make sure. Oh yeah, things are sliding off. Looks like the purple is sticking around a little too much, so we'll hit that with my heat tool. So I'm going to take just a little bit of masking tape. I'm going to tape my card closed, just down here at the bottom, just to keep that closed. And then I'm going to use my sticky mat and make sure that's down in that corner. Stick my card base on there. And then we have the Garden Greetings stamp set from Simply Stamp. I'm going to use the really big border. Thought that would be pretty, going right across this really colorful area. And I'm going to have it be centered but a little bit up, because my plan is to put my greeting right here, and that'll get all the proportions just right. All right, I'm gonna make sure it's down in this corner. It has a little wiggle room. I'm gonna make sure it's in this corner down here, just in case I need to re-stamp anything. And I'm also going to do my anti-static powder tool once again, just right over that center area. I'm going to try not to go over the edges onto the grid mat, because that'll just make the grid mat not sticky. Or I should say the sticky mat. All right, I'm using Versamark ink. Make sure that's in that bottom corner. And then stamp down. And I'm just going to walk my fingertips up and down. Just going to make sure we get a really good impression. Okay. And I can kind of see where that's at. So I'm going to stamp my greeting as well. Perfect. All right. So I'm going to very carefully peel back this from the card, because you want to peel the mat, not the card. There we go. Oh, beautiful. You know, it's interesting. I noticed using the embossing powder when I was in Hawaii. Of course, it was a different embossing powder, so that could have been it too. But it just seemed to stick to everything more than I was used to. And it's probably because of the humidity in the air. So all of you who live in very humid climates, I so sympathize with you. I can sympathize even more now. So pretty. Anyway, I'm going to add a few other little things. Like in the stamp set, there's some little dots and little flowers and hearts and stuff. I thought I'd just do a few of the hearts and things like that. So I'm going to grab one of the blocks that I set aside for this challenge here. I'm going to do the little hearts. I think that'd be really fun. And my Versamark pad got really dirty while I was in Hawaii. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh yeah, I think that's going to be great. Hit these with my heat tool. I've decided it needs one thing. You guys know what it is. It's a white dash line. I'm using my T-square ruler from Simon Says Stamp. And I'm just going to add oh, yeah, that's not too bad. Okay, yeah, okay. It needed that. So here's the card for today. I love the progression of color going across. I think I could have probably created even more overlap, like right here. I love those overlaps. I probably could have created even more if I really would have saturated those colors. So, you know, next time. But I love how that turned out on the very simple border stamp across the middle. I think this could be adapted to so many other card designs, or you don't even have to have a big border stamp. Maybe it's just a lot of little stamps and you can like group them into like a wide border like this. I think that could be really, really pretty. It can be adapted to so many different things. And I love the ink blending. I think that was really, really fun and a great way to use the supplies that I'd chosen for my capsule paper crafting challenge. Thanks so much for watching. I will be back next week where we jump right into the cards that I made while I was in Hawaii. Seriously, the first two, oh, they might be my favorite cards that I've made in a while. Can't wait for you guys to see them. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.